Michael Jordan has finally spoken up about Isaiah Thomas, directly addressing the Anucia Brown-Sanders controversy. Known for his candor regarding IT, this time he's unveiling some significant truths. Right now, it's a tough moment for Isaiah Thomas. Will this tarnish the reputation of one of basketball's all-time greats? Or has MJ taken on more than he can handle? Let's explore the shocking claims that shook the NBA to its core. Few rivalries have ignited as fiercely or endured as long as that of Michael Jordan and Isaiah Thomas. Yet, events in 2007 would introduce a fresh layer to their long-standing conflict. This one entailed grave accusations of harassment, a pivotal lawsuit, and substantial financial repercussions. Anucia Brown-Sanders, who formerly served as the senior vice president of marketing and business operations for the New York Knicks, initiated a sexual harassment lawsuit against Isaiah Thomas, who held the dual roles of president and coach of the Knicks, as well as Madison Square Garden. The accusations were sensational. The court proceedings turned into a frenzy of public attention, and the decision would reverberate across the realm of basketball. However, to grasp the full impact of these events, we must revisit the origins of Anucia Brown-Sanders, the individual who ultimately took down a giant in the sport. This was no ordinary disgruntled worker voicing complaints. This was a pioneer, a woman who had consistently broken barriers throughout her professional journey. Before joining the Knicks, Brown-Sanders had an exceptional track record. A standout player at Northwestern University, she set records in 2014, won Big Ten Player of the Year honors twice, and top Division I women's basketball in scoring average in 1985. Contrary to the fate of many former athletes, she didn't disappear after college. Instead, she built a remarkable corporate career, dedicating 11 years to IBM and later overseeing sports marketing for the Olympics. When the Knicks brought her on board in 2000 as a marketing executive and elevated her to senior vice president by 2002, she emerged as a leading black female executive in the realm of professional sports. This context is vital since the ensuing events weren't driven by desire for quick money or fame. It involved a highly regarded and successful professional who encountered an untenable predicament when Isaiah Thomas became part of the Knicks in December 2003. The claims later made by Brown-Sanders were as unsettling as they were thorough. Her lawsuit asserted that Thomas consistently employed offensive and demeaning language towards her. Yet, it was more than just the verbal mistreatment. The accusations depicted a work environment lacking professional boundaries, where a dominant figure acted as if he had the right to treat a female peer as his own toy. You see, you're curious about his actions. Initially, you reach out to the robber. I can't say for sure, honestly. Yet, he insists that it's all fine. If a white guy treats a black woman that way, it's just not right. However, if a black man acts in that way toward a black woman, it's considered less severe, even acceptable. That reasoning won't be accepted by the public. Also, did you hear she demanded $10 million? The jury awarded her $11.6 million. They're saying, no, that's not enough. This guy's quite the piece of work. Then he shifts from dissing her to, hey, beautiful, how about we kiss? He's reaching for her, pushing for a kiss, and suggests, let's take this elsewhere. She's got a husband and 3 kids. He's a husband and father of 2. The particular claims were astonishing in their boldness. Brown-Sanders further asserted that Thomas made inappropriate approaches, such as attempting to plant a kiss on her cheek during a work meeting and professing his love for her following a pickup basketball game in 2004. She recounted that when she sought to engage players in corporate functions, Thomas belittled her attempts with vulgar remarks. However, the most unsettling aspect may have been the cultural backdrop that Thomas offered during his deposition. In a remark that would ignite significant debate throughout the proceedings, Thomas asserted that a black man referring to a black woman was less objectionable than a white man doing the same. This assertion not only displayed a troubling perspective, but also attracted considerable backlash and was leveraged to scrutinize his judgment during the trial. The workplace described by Brown-Sanders was not merely unprofessional, it was fundamentally toxic. She characterized the subsequent environment under Thomas as akin to a wild house filled with sneakers, where vulgarity and inappropriate conduct were not only accepted but appeared to be standard practice. The turmoil extended far beyond the accusations against Thomas. The proceedings would unveil a system steeped in favoritism, where fundamental professional ethics appeared completely absent. Among the most startling disclosures was the account concerning Nick Starr and Stephen Marbury, who confessed to labeling Brown-Sanders with a derogatory term and engaging in consensual acts with a team in turn in a vehicle parked outside a strip joint. This extended beyond the actions of a single individual. This situation centered on a completely derailed organizational culture. The entire setup operated in this manner, or so they claimed. Then, when she brought forth her grievance, Nolan, I think, played a role in undermining her, eventually pushing her out. Absolutely not, Nolan. You really messed up, my friend. That's why you suddenly find yourself having to cough up 3 million hours from your own funds. They have a point. You can't terminate someone simply for making valid complaints about these issues. That's the core of this harassment. You observe the grievances and take action. It's akin to steps 0.1 and 2 found in the guidelines. When Brown Sanders mustered the bravery to disclose Thomas's misconduct to MSG President Steve Mills, the reply she got was revealing and disheartening. She was advised to accept his behavior, and Mills supposedly cautioned her that Thomas could spread a rumor linking her to another Knicks worker, Jeff Knicks, to undermine her reputation. This was not merely a lapse in leadership. It represented a deliberate effort to silence a victim and shield an offender. The backlash that ensued was rapid and expected. Following her decision to engage legal counsel for her harassment allegations, Brown Sanders was terminated in January 2006, purportedly due to failure to meet job obligations. A move she contended was blatant retribution for her grievances. The implication was clear. Raise your voice against harassment, and your career may be at stake. But Anucia Brown Sanders wasn't going to fade away silently. In January 2006, she initiated her lawsuit, laying the groundwork for a landmark harassment case in the world of sports. What she likely never foresaw was that the trial would morph into a media sensation, revealing not only the misdeeds of a single individual, but also the deep-seated corruption within an entire organization. The proceedings that stretched over the next 18 months transcended mere financial compensation or the pursuit of justice. The matter revolved around authority, responsibility, and the question of whether a legendary NBA personality would at last be held to account for his deeds. Meanwhile, in the shadows of this unfolding saga stood Michael Jordan, the enduring opponent of Thomas, observing the disintegration of his foe's reputation in real time. A trial was on the brink of revealing all the truths. As summer 2007 drew near, the basketball community was set to encounter an event unlike any before. Brown Sanders was bringing forth a harassment lawsuit against Isaiah Thomas in Madison Square Garden, set for federal court in Manhattan. What would transpire over 3 weeks spanning September and October would prove to be more intense than any playoff matchup. This was not merely a legal battle. It represented a public analysis of power dynamics, privilege, and a toxic atmosphere that had taken root in one of the NBA's most legendary teams. The trial kicked off in September 2007, and from the outset, it was evident that it would be an unprecedented event in the sports arena. The case unfolded in federal court in Manhattan, extending across 3 weeks and attracting considerable media scrutiny due to its scandalous revelations and the prominent figures involved. The courtroom was filled with journalists. Flashes from cameras illuminated the courthouse entrance, with daily updates overshadowing the previous day's jaw-dropping testimonies. Brown Sanders was the initial witness, delivering her statements with a blend of intensity and heartbreak. She meticulously recounted Thomas's purported rants and unwelcome advances, her clarity indicating a person compelled to meticulously catalog every distressing encounter. Her narrative transcended mere singular occurrences. It revealed a troubling trend that portrayed Thomas as someone who perceived his authority as a free pass to treat women in the workplace as he pleased. The approach to defense taken by Thomas and MSG was both expected and unsightly. Their tactic was to paint Brown Sanders as a bitter worker who fabricated allegations following her shortcomings. MSG executives, such as VP of Finance John Cudmore, claimed that Brown Sanders had previously used harsh terms like "EP Bafun" to diminish her own reliability. It was a straightforward case of blaming the victim for using explicit language in a challenging environment. How could she raise concerns when it was aimed at her? Yet, it was Thomas's very own words that sealed his fate. Once he took the witness stand, his rebuttals sounded unconvincing, and his efforts to downplay his encounters with Brown Sanders appeared insincere. Thomas rejected the majority of Brown Sanders' claims, asserting his innocence at every turn during the trial. He acknowledged trying to kiss her on the cheek, but portrayed it as an innocent gesture that she turned away. Furthermore, he asserted that he had only been in her company for roughly 3 hours over a span of 2 years, insinuating that her accusations were either greatly inflated or entirely false. The jury, however, remained unconvinced by Thomas's arguments. As the trial unfolded, the accumulating evidence against both Thomas and the institution backing his actions became undeniable. The defense's efforts to deflect blame and downplay Thomas's involvement grew more frantic as the proceedings continued. MSG aligned with Thomas, depicting Brown Sanders as a bitter worker who invented allegations following her shortcomings. They contended that the organization, rather than Thomas himself, should be held accountable for any problems in the workplace. However, this tactic dramatically misfired, effectively conceding that significant workplace problems existed that required resolution. As the trial approached its final stages, the atmosphere in the courtroom grew thick with tension. Each side had put forth its arguments, and the evidence was now visible to all. The pivotal moment had arrived for the jury to determine who was credible. Comprising 4 women and 3 men, they were on the brink of delivering a verdict that would reverberate through the basketball community and far beyond. On October 2, 2007, the pivotal moment came. The jury returned a split verdict that pleased Brown Sanders but left certain issues unresolved. The conclusions were intricate, yet incriminating. They determined that Thomas had harassed Brown Sanders by supporting a toxic workplace influenced by This crucial ruling directly refuted Thomas's assertions of being blameless and confirmed that his actions had violated legal limits. MSG was held accountable for wrongfully terminating Brown Sanders in response to her grievances. The outcome substantiated her assertions that she faced repercussions for addressing harassment, a violation of federal labor laws. The financial verdict was astounding. The jury granted Brown Sanders a total of $11.6 million in punitive damages, with $6 million for the hostile work scenario, $2.6 million for MSG's retaliatory actions, and $3 million directed toward MSG Chairman James Dolan personally. Nonetheless, one element of the ruling would spark continued debate. The jury failed to achieve a unanimous consensus on whether Thomas should bear punitive costs, leading to a mistrial concerning that matter, which many interpreted as a partial triumph for Thomas. The indecisive jury regarding Thomas's personal responsibility will serve as a focal argument for his supporters, who will subsequently cite it as proof of his innocence. I'm deeply disheartened that the jury failed to recognize the truth of this matter. I plan to challenge this decision, and I maintain my faith in who I am and the principles I uphold within my family. Thank you. He is truly innocent. I was unaware of that. He desires to be housed and professes complete innocence. Thomas responded to the verdict with a mix of arrogance and ignorance. Rather than expressing any regret or recognizing the jury's conclusions, he reinforced his assertions of being innocent. His statement to the press after the verdict was an exemplary case of completely overlooking the issue. Despite the jury's conclusion that he played a significant role in fostering a hostile work environment, Thomas opted to highlight the single point on which the jury was divided as proof of his total exoneration. The ruling reverberated through the NBA and the entire sports community. An emblematic giant of basketball, both as a celebrated player and a notable executive, was being legally charged with the responsibility of cultivating a hostile workplace. The $11.6 million verdict served not merely as a fiscal punishment, but as a declaration that no one in sports, regardless of their influence, is immune to the law. The understated Brown Sanders, where Isaiah Thomas finds his peace. She was employed at Madison Square Garden and is the owner of Knicks. MSG faced a $6 million penalty for her termination due to a toxic work atmosphere, alongside $2.6 million for retaliation. In addition, James Dolan, the chairman of MSG, personally incurred a $3 million penalty, while Isaiah walked away unscathed. He's the one pressuring her and causing unrest, shouting "No justice, no peace." The public's response was rapid and divided. Numerous observers regarded the ruling as a long-awaited measure of accountability for misconduct that had persisted unchallenged within professional sports. Conversely, supporters of Thomas raised concerns about the integrity of the trial, citing the deadlocked jury as proof that the matter was not as straightforward as it seemed. However, the most revealing response came from the NBA itself. Although the league refrained from immediately severing ties with Thomas, the verdict posed a challenging dilemma for an entity striving to evolve and expand its audience. The revelation that a key figure associated with the organization was deemed guilty of harassment presented a public relations crisis with enduring consequences. In December 2007, MSG and Brown Sanders reached an $11.5 million settlement, a figure slightly below the jury's decision, reportedly influenced by then-NBA Commissioner David Stern to prevent an appeal. While this agreement concluded the legal battle, it did not address the larger issues of accountability and workplace culture highlighted by the case. For Brown Sanders, the ruling was a form of validation, yet it exacted a heavy toll on her personal and professional life. She expressed her contentment with the resolution, proclaiming it a triumph for all working women in America and advocates of a respectful work atmosphere. However, the struggle had its consequences, effectively ending her career in professional sports. As the courtroom drama concluded, one lingering inquiry stood out. What was Michael Jordan's role in this saga? The figure who had clashed with Thomas for years, who purportedly played a role in preventing his inclusion on the Dream Team, who once labeled him a tool. How did he respond to witnessing his perennial adversary face such grave accusations? Michael Jordan's unspoken triumph and the enduring repercussions. Following the shocking ruling against Isaiah Thomas, both basketball enthusiasts and journalists eagerly anticipated Michael Jordan's take on the legal issues facing his longtime opponent. This is the same Michael Jordan known for openly voicing his contempt for Thomas, who supposedly played a role in Thomas's omission from the Dream Team and publicly labeled him a hole in The Last Dance documentary. One would expect that witnessing his rival found liable for harassment would inspire some commentary from the basketball icon, yet no public statement emerged. This quiet response was notable, especially given Jordan's track record of candidly addressing his views on Thomas and their fraud history. Yet, Jordan's lack of participation in the dialogue may have carried more weight than any words he could offer. To grasp the importance of Jordan's silence, we must look back at the lengthy conflict that shaped their bond. The animosity between Jordan and Thomas extended beyond the basketball court. It was deeply intertwined with feelings of offense and palpable betrayals that had endured over time. Both were intense rivals during the late 80s and early 90s. as the Chicago Bulls, led by Jordan, clashed with Thomas's Detroit Pistons across several playoff confrontations. The infamous Bad Boys era, marked by a rough style of play and psychological games, stirred enduring animosity. Among the pivotal moments that intensified their rivalry was the rumored freeze-out in the 1985 NBA All-Star Game, where it's widely believed that Thomas and fellow veterans sought to minimize Jordan's impact. With Jordan netting just 7 points, the hostilities peaked in the fierce playoff matchups, culminating in the Pistons ousting the Bulls from the postseason in 1988, 1989, and 1990, frequently employing the Jordan rules, a tactical approach aimed at physically confronting him. In 1991, the Bulls triumphed over the Pistons, taking them down in a clean sweep during the Eastern Conference Finals. However, the aftermath of that victory was what truly solidified their rivalry for years to come. The Pistons left the court without extending a handshake, heightening tensions and breaching the unwritten rules of sportsmanship, a slight that would linger in Jordan's memory. This act was not merely a lapse in conduct. It was a profound affront that struck deeply at Jordan's competitive spirit. The rivalry endured long after their playing days, spilling into their lives after retirement. Thomas was famously left off the 1992 U.S. Olympic Dream Team. Many speculated that Jordan had a role in that choice because of their contentious history. This theory was later echoed by Charles Barkley during a candid interview, where he was asked if Jordan played a part in Thomas's omission. Recently, he mentioned he would continue playing as long as he feels like he hasn't fully played yet. Thank you. So, if you're heading abroad, you must bring the strongest player with you. I don't really see it myself, but I believe Jack McCallum mentioned he recorded it and played it back since I've been bombarded with that question countless times. Interestingly, no one ever inquires about our prospective Thomas. A parent of Michael expressed a desire for him to be included on the team. However, he wasn't going to make the roster anyway. Whomever it may concern is curious about our next steps. We won't be part of the team. Considering the backdrop of resentment, Jordan's quietness during the 2007 trial and the ensuing period becomes all the more fascinating. This was a moment for Jordan to capitalize on his adversary's misfortune, using the verdict to reinforce his long-standing view of Thomas as intrinsically flawed. Yet, Jordan chose to remain silent in the public eye. This reticence can be understood through various lenses. Jordan's inclination to steer clear of commenting on controversies that do not directly concern him probably influenced his approach here as well. Despite his long-standing rivalry with Thomas, he likely perceived no advantage in addressing such a delicate matter involving harassment claims. Throughout his career, Jordan has been meticulous about safeguarding his brand and reputation, and involving himself in a harassment case, especially one related to a rival, could have proven dangerous. Additionally, the timing and context played a significant role in this decision. By 2007, Jordan had stepped away from playing, having retired back in 2003. He became actively engaged in basketball management, holding a minority ownership and executive role with the Charlotte Bobcats. His attention shifted to team oversight and business undertakings, and publicly criticizing Thomas regarding a serious issue could have appeared unprofessional or exploitative. However, his lack of commentary didn't indicate ignorance. Sources close to him conveyed that he was fully informed about the developments and their potential ramifications. The trial garnered significant attention within NBA circles, and an insider like Jordan would surely have kept an eye on each update. His decision to refrain from public commentary might have been strategic. Why provide Thomas with additional spotlight when his image was crumbling right before everyone's eyes? It was clear that Jordan had confronted Barkley. Jordan and Charles had a solid rapport during their playing days. Charles shared his thoughts during his TNT broadcast. He and Jordan have maintained a cordial stance since the Isaiah and Scottie days. Do you think these two will reconcile? I doubt it. It's comparable to asking, well, I can't say. Isaiah's actions stemmed from his decision to join Chicago. He claimed he'd rather not participate if it meant being part of a dream team. The repercussions of the trial on Thomas's career and image turned out to be more harmful than anything Jordan could have expressed publicly. Thomas stayed with the Knicks until 2008, yet he continued to encounter criticism. The trial tarnished the Knicks' reputation, revealing a chaotic and unprofessional environment. Despite this, Thomas later secured roles in different basketball-related positions. His reputation never quite bounced back from the ruling and the damaging culture it revealed. The turmoil involving Thomas persisted beyond the 2007 ruling. In 2015, after Thomas was appointed president and co-owner of the WNBA's New York Liberty, Brown Sanders and her lawyer released a statement denouncing Thomas and MSG for trying to alter the narrative. The decision faced significant backlash as tone-deaf, considering the grave nature of prior allegations. Despite this, Jordan kept his silence, although his lingering hostility toward Thomas was well known, and their relationship remained as chilly as it had always been. In a 2020 interview, a source familiar with Jordan indicated that he didn't revel in the hardships of others, yet he wasn't inclined to empathize with Thomas. The airing of the Last Dance documentary that same year presented Jordan a chance to share his genuine sentiments about Thomas, emphasizing their competitive rivalry rather than any legal issues. Within the series, Jordan described Thomas as a pole and voiced ongoing bitterness about the Pistons' tactics and the notorious walk-off moment. When posed with the question of reconciling with Thomas, Jordan's response was clear-cut: no. Ultimately, Dolan has earned every bit of his fate, and MSG along with the Knicks have brought upon themselves their current situation, owing to their failure to dismiss Isaiah Thomas years back. It wasn't this scandal that should have led to his ousting. It was the undeniable fact that he was the most incompetent coach and general manager in the entire realm of basketball. So why was he allowed to stick around? What more must he do to be let go in this city? The harassment allegations achieved what years of struggles on the court could never accomplish. The matter was finally resolved between Michael Jordan and Isaiah Thomas. Jordan refrained from making any public remarks. Instead, he observed as his adversary's reputation disintegrated due to his own misdeeds. For Anucia Brown Sanders, this situation encompassed both victory and loss. She had triumphed in her legal fight and obtained some justice, yet it came at the expense of her career in the world of professional athletics. Her bravery in voicing concerns had opened doors for subsequent cases and revealed the harmful environments present in numerous sports entities. She unwittingly emerged as an icon of the #MeToo movement, even prior to its designation. The ramifications of the case reached well beyond the personal feud between Jordan and Thomas. It compelled the NBA and various other professional sports associations to face harsh realities regarding workplace culture, authority structures, and responsibility. The era in which influential individuals could behave without consequence, assured that their position would shield them, was nearing its conclusion. The impact of the Anucia Brown Sanders case lingers on as sports organizations strive to foster safer and more inclusive environments. Her bravery in voicing her experiences inspired others to share theirs, and her court triumph set crucial legal standards for cases to follow. Ultimately, the competition between Jordan and Thomas transcended basketball. It revolved around integrity and the treatment of individuals by those in power. The harassment case of 2007 settled this argument once and for all, with Jordan's silence resonating more profoundly than any statement could. We appreciate your time in viewing this video. To enjoy another captivating video similar to this one, simply click on one of the boxes displayed on your screen now.